quarterback Bryce Underwood. He looked me in the face with Blaine at the On3 Summit, and he said, I'm not going to Michigan. I'm going to stay with LSU.
I remember that.
Michigan goes to Oklahoma in week 2. No one wants to win that game more.
I want to win them all.
Now, the man I'm about to bring on here needs no introduction. If you know anything about college football or if you've been outside in the last 2 years, you're going to know who this guy is. But we're really excited to be joined by Michigan head football coach Sherrone Moore.
Yeah.
Coach, what's up?
Yeah, welcome to Crain.
Welcome to Crain and Co, man. Welcome to Crain and Co.
I love that intro, man. I need you with me wherever I go.
Yeah, look, man, I was a special teams coach in Division I for a while, so I have to find energy. You got to bring the energy every time to keep them excited. Well, Coach, I want to start off with this because, talking about when I was in, I've been out of it for 4 years, and it's still changed so much even since I was doing it or David or Blaine was playing. And you look at the balance now because, the buck stops with you on who's going to play, who's first string, who's second, who's third. But we've entered a space with NIL where it's so much different now than it used to be. How do you balance, saying, this guy is making this amount of money with playing time? I mean, we see this in Major League Baseball all the time. You draft a guy in the first round, he's hitting 250 in the minors. You may move him up before you move a guy that's hitting 300 you drafted in the 30th round because of that situation. Just how have you navigated that in what has been a totally new world of college athletics?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing we've done is we've had to adapt, we've had to adjust, but it's all about who you recruit and the type of players you recruit, the type of families you recruit to the program, because with NIL, with revenue sharing coming up, all that's happening, like you still have to have the love for the game. You still have to have a love for a team, a bond to play for the guy next to you. So that all that stuff has to matter. We go into recruiting, battles and conversations, and if the first question asked is, hey, how much money am I going to make? That's probably not the person that we want here, because if it's 3rd and 1 on offense or defense and it's that time, like, are they going to make that business decision to put their body on the line for the team? So, that's a big piece of it too. But for us, you got to earn it. You got to invest in the right type of people. And then you've got to earn those dollars to be that, type of player that gets the certain amount of dollars. I have a GM, Sean McGee, who's, he came from the NFL. He was here before. He's done an outstanding job and helped me and helped us navigate this whole process of how to do it. And we try to do it very fairly, whether we're acquiring players based on their capabilities or our projection of capabilities, or the players that we have and what they make and what they can get. So it's a very collaborative process, and our administration has been awesome, and our alumni have been awesome with adjusting to the times that we have now, because you either adapt or die. So if you don't adapt to the times, you'll be left behind. So we definitely had to do that, and we're still doing it. And there's always going to be change, and there's going to be more change that we have to adapt to. And we got to do a really good job as an organization and as a university to make sure we do that, so we're competitive and to get the best players with the best players that fit Michigan.
Yeah. Well, we always say on the show, if you're not evolving, you're dissolving. And Coach, just on that GM point real quick, you brought that up. I get asked this, and we get asked this all the time. And I know probably every place does it different. Our buddy Jim Nagy just got hired as the GM as Oklahoma. What exactly does that role entail for you guys at Michigan, that GM role? Is it all encompassing? Is it very specific things? Or how does that role navigate?
Yeah, it's specific to roster management, understanding how the roster is built, what we need, any deficiencies or needs by position. With the new cap of roster, knowing you can only have 105 guys on a team, it's how do we build this roster to be the most equipped roster in college football and be the most balanced and have the most talent we can. It's going to be a battle every year to get the best players. And for us to do that, we're going to have to recruit the best players. But part of that is going to be the NIL piece, combating with different schools. So, their job is, his job is roster management, recruiting management, the NIL, the budget, and how we disperse that throughout our team and make sure that we have it's equal and fair, and it's a collective process for sure.
Interesting. Thank you for that. That's a question we get all the time.
Coach Moore, I just want you to know I did my part for the program last summer in trying to convince quarterback Bryce Underwood to flip to Michigan. He looked me in the face with Blaine at the On3 Summit, and he said, I'm not going to Michigan. I'm going to stay with LSU.
I remember that.
So why LSU?
Development at the quarterback position.
And they've had
as you go as far as like history and things like that, like that was a big thing for me. Like for Michigan, you got
You're fine.
Exactly.
Don't. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have the same amount of development as like LSU has at the moment.
Throughout the fall, we start hearing these rumors. He might decommit from LSU. Maybe there's some big money involved. Now he's going to go to Michigan. Can you just walk us through the process of how it happened to get a kid 18 miles from Michigan Stadium who grew up saying he wanted to play for Michigan to finally go and call Ann Arbor home?
It was a long process. We've known Bryce for a very long time. I've known him for a long time. He's, first of all, an outstanding young man. Obviously, he's a talented football player, great family. Mom, Beverly, and dad, Jay, are outstanding people. Little sister Jay is like a sweet young lady. And they are incredible human beings, first of all. So always knew it was a great fit for us. And I think the process, there's some things that happened beforehand where he just felt like that was a better fit for him. And we rebuilt the relationship. We already had one, but we rebuilt it when I became the head coach, and it was a long process. So we've been recruiting him since he's been committed to LSU. And as we know, like in recruiting, that always happens. If you're not talking to your players, somebody else is, right? So you always have to be able to recruit at a high level with communication. Communication is the number one piece of it. There's NIL, there's all this, all that's great, but if you don't communicate, build relationships with these players and families, then none of that matters, right? So for us, a big piece of that is building the relationship, and I take a lot of pride in myself building those relationships with as many guys as I can on the board, and the staff is very careful, try not to overload me, but I'll do it. I'll call 10 to 15 guys a day if I have to, and write letters and talk to parents and build those relationships, because I want them to understand, like, when you come here, you're not just a player, you're like my kid. I've got two sweet little girls at home, and I got 105 guys here. I have 5 kids here. So it's really important to me that I built that relationship. So that was a huge piece of it. Continue that relationship, letting him understand what the vision of this program would be like, and then, let everything happen from there. And it was it started the media part of it started to come out. And that's when it felt like it blew up, but it was something that was already happening behind the scenes.
That's a great mindset for a head coach to have. I know that when I went 1,000 miles away from home, it was important to my parents for me to play for a head coach that sort of had that mindset and looking after us like we were, the head coach's children. The number one question I'm getting asked right now, obviously, is who's going to play quarterback for Michigan in 2025. And I try and explain to them the process of how spring practice works, how fall camp works, especially when you're starting a new guy. And I also bring up, hey, Michigan goes to Oklahoma in week 2 in 2025. That's Coach Moore's alma mater. No one wants to win that game more than the head coach who played at Oklahoma. I know. There's something special when you go back home to mama's territory, right? And so I'm like, look, I think he's going to start the best guy, and that gets determined in spring and in fall camp. But you bring in a veteran, Mikey Keene from Fresno State, over 8,000 career passing yards, had a good day in the big house last year, but then also we have the highest rated recruit in the history of the program coming in to play quarterback. Can you just explain what your selection process will be like to name a starting quarterback this season?
Yeah, so you've got Mikey, you've got Bryson, you've got Jaden Davis, and Jaden Davis is no slouch either. He's a kid that came in highly touted, super competitive, love his spirit, love his ability. So, right now we got those 3 guys that are really in the thick of the battle. And then, we'll bring in another high school player, Chase Herbstreit, in the summer, and we'll probably have another guy here, and then, so have a total of 5 really. But those 3 are really in the heat of the battle, and it's unbelievable to have the talent that we have here right now in that position, and we just want to build it and continue to build it for years and years and years. But the process is going to be pretty simple: who completes the most passes, who's the best leader, who can help the team win the most, and those things can sometimes be answered in the spring. Those things can be pushed out throughout the summer through workouts, and then most of the time it happens where you got to get to fall camp and make a decision. So. We'll take the process, very slowly and make sure we make the right decision for the team.
Awesome.
Well, it's really one thing I've learned. It's really hard to doubt a quarterback if his name's Jaden. Like, they were usually pretty solid. Well, Coach, we've had some heated debates on this show, which I'm sure you know since you watch Crain and Company every day over the spring games, and you see so many prominent programs right now coming out and canceling their spring games. I just want to kind of get your philosophy on the spring game, your thoughts, and kind of how y'all handle it.
For me, I I love the spring game. It's always been a competitive, we draft teams, we split the whole building. It's something that we've done for a while now since Coach Harbaugh was here, and our players love it. So I don't want to take that away from them. At the same time, we got to be cognizant of what we do with the world that we live in now and how we operate. So we'll make a decision internally how we'll handle that. I still in my heart want to have a spring game, but we'll make a decision on how we'll handle it. But for us, it's really not about, because I think regardless whether you have a spring game or not, people are going to poach your players if they really want to try to, so it's not going to be they watch them on TV or watch them on, they're going to figure out a way to make sure they can get involved, whether it's an agent, whether it's a family member, whether it's a high school coach. We've had high school coaches of our players shopping around players who hadn't even played yet, so that piece is, you can say that just because you have a spring game, they're going to come take your players. You can not have a spring game. They're probably still going to try to anyway, or somebody in their circle is going to shop them around. So I don't think that matters as much. So we'll make a decision what we feel is best for us and best for the teams. And I'll have my captains that are involved and help them, see what they think as well, because I try to involve our players as much as we can in a lot of those decisions.
Awesome. I love it. We're going to play a little game here, Coach. It's called a little snap reaction.
You don't have to say it like Jigsaw from Saw. Like, we don't want
we're not trying to scare him away.
Blaine's not going to pull up on a tricycle here. So let's
okay.
Just,
all right.
Yeah, well, hey, I might pull up on a tricycle.
You might pull up on a tricycle.
You never know. I'm going to show you a picture, and the first thing that pops in your head could be a word, could be a phrase. You just go ahead and let it go, and I'm going to put that first picture up now.
JJ
McCarthy.
Oh, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play at Michigan. One of my favorite players I've ever coached.
All right, pull the next one up.
Deuce.
Like.
Oh, the GOAT.
All right, next one. Cody!
What are you doing?
Cody, look at
What
it,
a
kid.
beast.
Yeah,
okay.
Where
did you find that?
Yeah.
Don't ask questions. Don't ask questions.
Why does Cody look like he played on the Mighty Ducks team?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, my goodness.
There we go.
Yes, sir.
Big guy. Wow.
Still do it.
That's OU, Texas.
Yeah.
Was it? Red River, man.
Yep.
Look at that.
All right, we saved the best for last. Pull it up.
Oh,
Man, what a game.
Storied rivalry.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect answer.
Yes.
I want to ask about that rivalry because as a kid who went from South Georgia to play football at the University of Michigan, it was amazing to me how quickly every single player is baptized in that rivalry, no matter if you're from the state or if you come from California or wherever. In an era where the college football playoff is expanding, there's questions about is the regular season being weakened at all? Are these rivalry games, the impact of them, are they being lessened? What's your thoughts right now on Michigan and Ohio and the direction of that rivalry?
I think it's the greatest rivalry in sports. Being a part of this rivalry and seeing other rivalries and then watching the impact it has not only on our fan base, on their fan base, but the country. And that game, it's called The Game. There's no name, there's no nickname. It's just called The Game. And being a part of it now, going on, this is going to be my 8th year at Michigan. And being a part of it, especially the last 4 years, has been incredible. But I was a part of losses too. And they sting. Like, they don't just sting for that week or those 2 days. Like, they sting the whole year. So I understand completely what that rivalry means. And it's amazing how you go around the country, recruiting, traveling, whatever it is, and like you hear the Go Blue or you hear the OH, and so my rebuttal is always they say OH, I say NO, and they get upset with me about it. But it's a rivalry that just can't go away. It's awesome for college football. It's what college football is all about, and 2 great programs that compete every year, and it usually means a lot, for the end of the season for somebody.
Yeah, Coach, I got one more for you here, and again, I know it never stops in your world. Jim Harbaugh, obviously, your relationship with him and taking over after he went to the NFL. I know you guys have had a ton of talks about things. I just want to know, what is the best advice that Coach Harbaugh gave you, whether it was when he was still there or as he was leaving or after he left? What do you think, if you could pick one thing that really kind of still stands out to you that he talked to you about?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I learned from Coach, there's really 2. Can I give you 2? Because there's 2 things that, like, probably the number one thing is that don't be afraid to do something different because you've never done it. So like always live outside the box, always be able to go outside the box, and just because you did something this way doesn't mean it's always going to work. Whether that be planning a schedule, whether that be a play. When I was calling plays, he was very hands off on that approach and let me kind of handle it. But it was because I've been kind of indoctrinated to how he kind of wanted it and how he'd always thought of football. And I didn't have a cookie cutter approach to how I thought of football or did things. So I've been a part of West Coast, I've been a part of spread, I've been a part of up tempo, been a part of guys that quarterback that can run the ball and whatever. So like I've been able to adjust and see different things, but his vision of how he thought of the game was just completely different. And for a quarterback to ultimately just want to run the ball, that for me, that was like, wow, that was the craziest thing ever. So but that turned into like, when he was planning practices and planning different events and different things and, with the players, I think that was the number one thing that I learned from him about how to attack the game and how to approach everything you do. And then the other thing is probably just how to challenge people. You don't have to challenge people and attack them. You can challenge the problem. And I've been a part of both, seeing people attack people and people attack problems, and he never attacked people. He was an outstanding communicator, just being able to get his point across. And sometimes it was a little different, his point would come across, but you'd understand he was trying to make you better as a coach or as a player or as a staff member, and he wasn't attacking you as a person. So I think that was, those are things I really learned from him.
Wow, that's great stuff.
Man, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to Dave Abeloff and your entire team for helping set this up.
No, this is all. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, come to Ann Arbor soon. It's a great place.
Hey, y'all kick some ass. We'll be up there, man. Good luck this year, man.
Go Blue.
Appreciate
you guys. Go Blue,
Coach. Thank you.